hear the word God. I didn't want to deal with God or anything religious, because I'd been raised in a religion that taught me I was going to burn in hell forever if I even thought about sex.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't even have to do anything to go to hell.
Yeah.
I just, had to think about it,
Yeah.
Think human thoughts, and I was going to go to hell. So I didn't like that God. I reacted to that God by going to the other extreme and just not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
But what they told me at 12-step recovery, which is part of the genius of 12-step recovery, they told me that I could have a higher power of my own understanding, that I didn't have to accept anybody else's definition of God.
Uh-huh.
That I could, find my own higher power, and they suggested it'd be a loving higher power. Because, like I said, I couldn't even use the word God in the early recovery. I would say, what I would say was the Force is with me, because I always resonated with that from the first time I saw Star Wars.
Yeah.
Or the Great Spirit, whose energy was present in everyone and everything. I could relate to that, but God was a word I could relate to. But it started me on a spiritual quest to figure out how there could be a loving higher power in the universe, and so I studied theology and mythology and metaphysics and occult and eventually quantum physics and molecular biology and all this other stuff. But there was one day that was a real milestone, and it came about 2 weeks short of 2 years in recovery. So I'd been clean and sober for almost 2 years. Life was so much better than it had been, but I still wanted to die some days. And I still had pain. I didn't know what to do, where it was coming from, and I didn't know how to do relationships,
Yeah.
So that day I got to thinking about the higher power thing, and I just realized that, there's only so many choices here. If God is judgmental and punishing, then I don't want to play.
Yeah.
If there is no God and there's no meaning and purpose to all this, it's stupid, and I don't want to play.
Yeah.
And what it came down to is, if there is a higher power, it needs to be a higher power that is so powerful that everything happens for a reason.
Uh-huh.
That there's no accidents or coincidences or mistakes, that everything's unfolding perfectly according to some cosmic perspective, some divine plan that I don't understand most of the time.
Yeah.
And that resonated with me. That felt like the truth, and felt like, gave me a reason for living. That everything is for a reason. And so that day I chose to make that the foundation of my spiritual belief system, that everything was happening for a reason.
Huh.
And I started saying things for myself like, I don't have any problems, I have opportunities for growth.
Yeah.
I don't know if I knew at the time, if I was conscious of what I was doing, but what I was doing was changing my relationship with life.
Yeah.
Away from seeing it as a test I could fail to seeing it as an unfolding growth process, as a lesson plan. And so instead of, being so scared of doing it wrong and being afraid of failing the test, what I started doing is looking for the lesson involved. And that helped me to start seeing the silver lining to things.
Uh-huh.
Life's paradoxical because there's more than one level in everything. And so that's why we have sayings like, every cloud has a silver lining, and it's always darkest before the dawn. The one in my book that you probably noticed is that really helped me was, what a caterpillar calls the end of the world, God calls a butterfly.
Yeah.
And it really helped me, because I really thought drinking was the end of the world.
Yeah.
And so it helped me to start looking at the silver lining instead of being defined by the cloud all the time. So I started seeing that life events are opportunities for growth. I had always reacted to life events as if it were personal punishment. My car would break down, and they would go, "Oh, why did this happen to me?"
Yeah.
Like it never happened to anybody else. I'd be the victim of it. And so what I started doing is started changing. To see it was an opportunity for growth. There was a silver lining there someplace that I started looking for. And the first time I really saw how much I changed my relationship with life was one day when my car broke down, and my first response was, boy, I'm glad it happened here in town instead of up there in the hills in the fog, where I was this morning.
Yeah.
Because the truth, the reality is, no matter where your car breaks down, it could have broken down at the worst place at the worst time.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to start looking for the silver lining, but that'd be more about what was defining my life than the dark cloud. And I realized that other people are teachers. And I like the nice teachers better than the assholes, But the assholes are the ones that force me to stand up and start taking care of myself.
Yeah.
Start having boundaries and protecting myself.
Yeah.
You know, if nobody would ever been a jerk to me, I would never have had to learn to stand up for myself.
Uh-huh.
So they were serving a spiritual purpose. You know, even though I didn't like them. You know,
Yeah.
they were part of my lesson plan, you know. And so it helped me move out of that victim place and start seeing everything as part of that lesson plan, you know. And so I would tell myself, when I was feeling bad and things were looking bad, I would tell myself, everything's going to be okay. You know, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
You know, that was a big thing for me to say to myself in early recovery, because when I go into this place that I call the abyss, which is this bottomless pit of pain and shame, we want to die.
Yeah.
And when I fit into feeling like that, I felt like it had lasted forever and it's going to last forever, you know. And just to say to myself, this too shall pass, was a big deal for me. And when I was feeling so, that was part of that counter-programming, you know, fake it till make it kind of thing. And so I'd say, you know, this too shall pass, more will be revealed. That's one thing that has always been true in my recovery, is more will be revealed. You know, when it's time to be revealed, when the universe thinks it's time to be revealed, not when I think it's time to be revealed. But so I talk to myself and I say, you know, remember the time I thought I was going to be homeless and everything worked out. So I learned to talk myself down from the fear. Because ego can wrap us up on that fear till like we're on the ledge ready to jump, you know. And so I need to talk myself down from that fear. And what I realized is I'd always taken life too personally and too seriously, you know. And what I need to do is not to lighten up and not take it so personally and so seriously. See that, you know, life events are to grow from, you know, teachers are to learn from. It's not out to punish me. It's not you know, that God isn't punishing me because I'm unworthy, which is what I got taught growing up, you know.
Yeah.
And like one of the sayings I came up with was, when it feels like shit, that means I'm being fertilized. Don't go.
Yeah.
And I was just saying that to myself when I was in a lot of pain, helped me to lighten up a little bit, but not to get so personally. And I saw a saying from Mother Teresa one time that I really liked. She said, I know the Lord never gives me more than I can handle. I just wish he didn't have so much confidence in me sometimes.
Yeah.
So what I, you know, say to myself when things are like getting crappy is that, you know, look at this shit. I'm really got a lot of fertilizer here. My higher power has a lot of confidence in me.
Right.
You know, instead of taking it, you know, instead of going into that I just want to die place, I would just, you know, start, you know, I would counter programming to that to not give it so much power. So, but the big deal to me about that spiritual belief system, that everything happens for a reason, is that if there is a higher power that's so powerful that everything happens for a reason, that means I don't have the power to screw up the plan.
Yeah.
How big a deal is that? How big a relief is that?
Right.
You know? That's a big deal, you know, because I was carrying so much shame that I needed a higher power that was so powerful that, you know, I didn't have the power to screw up the plan. You know, and and I believe that's the truth. I believe that you know, we don't have the power to screw up the plan. What I believe we do have is the power to make it easier or harder on ourselves. And that's the thing in my book where I talk about the old story about the mule driver trying to get the mule moving. You can either dangle the carrots in front of the mule or stick a gun on the mule. And it's because mules are notoriously stubborn, as are we human beings, you know.
Yeah.
And so I believe that the universe, that my higher power, has the power to get me where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there. My choice is, do I follow the carrots to get there or wait for this to drive me there?
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot easier on me to follow the carrots.
Yeah.
You know? To choose to be conscious and pay attention and look for the message and listen for the message and follow where I'm led and do what I'm led to do, instead of forcing the universe to use the stick on me. You know, and so and what that did is that really helped me to start living the serenity prayer in my life. You know, to really start learning how to stop giving so much time and energy and effort to trying to control things I can't control, like other people and life. You know, I'm not writing the script. I cannot control the outcomes. And so I need to let go of putting so much energy and effort in that and put more focus on taking control of the things I do have some control over. And but the key is take loving control over those things instead of shaming and judging, because that's what I've been trying to do in my life, is take control by shaming and judging myself and fear. And that didn't work. Like I said, I rebelled against that. So I need to take loving control over those things that I have some control over. So the things that I have some control over are my own attitudes, my own behaviors, and to a certain extent my feelings, because a lot of my emotional reactions are set up by my attitudes. Plus I can change my attitude, therefore my perspective of my emotions, to help me have a more balanced relationship with them. But the real big thing that was just so important to me to realize is that that growing up, I got the message that I had control over other people's feelings and they had control over mine. And what I need to realize in recovery is that's not the truth. That other people don't, that no one has the power to make me feel hurt or make me feel angry unless I give it to them. And the way I give it to them is with my expectations. So in other words, I get hurt or angry because they're not doing what I want them to. And I had all these insane expectations that, somebody I was in a relationship was supposed to do what I wanted them to all the time. Or my family was supposed to do what I wanted them to. Or politicians and bureaucrats were supposed to do what I wanted them to. And the one that I really learned a lot from was other drivers should drive the way I want them to. I was living in L.A. at the time and going into road rage almost daily. Had all the Asian assholes out there. And what I realized in looking at these expectations was that me expecting other drivers to drive the way I want them to, and that wasn't just insane, but that I was being emotionally dishonest when I was getting angry. Because, what was really happening was one of two things. One, they were scaring me. Human beings have this ability, this survival ability to change fear into anger. And so when I was getting angry and going into road rage because they scared me, I was actually being emotionally dishonest. So what I started doing is saying out loud, that scared me. And then I'd say a prayer for the other driver. But it was like a loaded prayer. I pray that the other driver get a chance to be happy, joyous, and free, knowing that meant they had to have their denial ripped away and go through lots of pain like I was. And then I offered up what had just happened as an amend for one of the times I had scared somebody when I was driving. And the reason I was in L.A. was because I was pursuing an acting career, and what I was really good at doing was being a suffering artist. Suffering artists have to, the church I grew up in taught me I was here to suffer, and everybody knows artists have to drink and use lots of drugs. That's a good excuse for that. And I had to be free for the next phone call to get my award, so I had to do suffering artist kind of jobs, like cars and wait tables, and drive a cab. And I drove a cab in L.A. for a year or two, stoned most of the time.
Wow.
I have enough amends to make for scaring people driving that will last for lifetimes to come. I'm really hoping for a dispensation on those, But the other thing they were doing, besides scaring me, was they were interfering with my self-obsession. I wasn't being present when I was driving. I was all caught up in the future or the past, and they were just in my way, I was the only important one out there. And I used to wish I had a laser on top of my car to just vaporize all the drivers in front of me. And so what I started doing is being more present when I was driving. And when I get caught in a traffic jam, I'd say, "Oh, thank you for this opportunity to practice patience and acceptance." Instead of going into a victim place. Because I needed to learn to really own that I had choices there instead of being the victim. There was a joke I heard around this time that really helped me. The joke was, what's the difference between a neurotic and a psychotic? And the way I tell it is that what's the difference between most of us codependents and really crazy people? And so the really crazy people, the people who are schizophrenic, people who are psychotic, they'll tell you and truly believe that 2 + 2 is 5. A codependent knows it's 4 and can't stand it. And what that made me realize is that's the way I was relating to life. I could see how life was, and I couldn't stand it. Because it wasn't fair, and it wasn't just, and people weren't nice, and we're destroying the planet we live on, and all this crap was going on, and it shouldn't be this way. That just made me a victim.
Yeah.
That wasn't serving me, you know?
Yeah.
What I needed to do is learn to see reality more clearly, accept reality as it is, and then make the best choices available to me.
Yeah.
Instead of being the victim, not being the way I wanted to be, you know?
Uh-huh.
Because that wasn't doing me any good. You know, it's like I have this thing where I'm almost compulsively early for things, and people who were late always drove me crazy.
Yeah.
And so I keep being the victim of them being late until I got honest with myself and I said, wait, I'm the one who's choosing to believe them.
Yeah.
Whose responsibility is that? That's not, they're just doing what they've always done.
Yeah.
You know? I'm expecting them to change because I want them to. You know, who's the crazy one here?
Yeah.
And a lot of times what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to let go of the relationship because I didn't want to deal with the grief, you know?
Yeah.
So I was being emotionally dishonest again. And when I first started looking at how these expectations were setting me up, I tried not to have expectations. I realized that's impossible. You know, if I have electricity and I'm having a light switch, I'm going to expect the lights to go on.
Yeah.
And if they don't, I'm going to have some feelings about that, you know?
Yeah.
When I go out to my car, I'm going to expect it to be there and to start. You know?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, I'm going to have some feelings about that.
Yeah.
But what is so is to realize that what I need to do is recognize how those expectations are set up so I can let go of them as soon as possible, as soon as I get aware of it. There was at one point, I realized the days I was calling bad days were days that weren't going the way I expected them to. And that those were actually the days I was learning the most, you know. And so I had to stop calling them bad, because we call it bad or hard or difficult. It just adds negativity to our relationship to whatever it is, you know. And so I started calling them surprises or adventures. I wonder what surprises my higher power has in store for me today, you know. And so what I learned, I was in treatment for codependence many years ago in Tucson, Arizona, and one of the counselors gave a definition that really upset me at the time, but it turned out to be really valuable, and it was a definition of frustration. You know, frustration. What frustration is when you're is what you feel when you're in a power struggle and you're losing.
Huh.
And so what that did to me is that helped me to realize when I start getting frustrated, that means there's something I need to let go of, something I need to surrender. And it's usually my idea of or my picture of how the day is supposed to go, my expectations of how things were going to go. Because it doesn't do any good for me to keep trying to make it happen the way I think it's going to make it happen, because it doesn't work. I'm not in control.
Yeah.
And if I'm trying to keep trying to make things go the way I want them to, a lot of times I'm trying to put a square peg in a round hole, and it just gets worse and worse. You know, so it was real important for me to start realizing that when I start getting frustrated, I start getting that wound too tight feeling, my shoulders start getting all tight, whatever, that means there's something I need to let go of, so I need to look at what are my expectations here, what's not being met, you know, and what's actually happening so I can see it clearly, accept it the way it is, and make the best choices for myself. You know, if I'm stuck in a traffic jam, I need to accept, okay, I'm in a traffic jam. Now what are my choices? You know, I'm not going to be able to make it to that place on time.
Yeah.
You know, and so because this was back before there were cell phones, so I couldn't just call.
Yeah.
So I'd have to decide, you know, if I'm going to get off and go on the surface streets or I'm going to stay on the freeway or what, you know. But I needed to own that I had choices instead of being the victim of life event.
Yeah.
You know, and so I need to see things more clearly, and, you know, accept the way they are, and then go with, you know, I can choose to go with the flow of life instead of thinking I'm in charge of the flow. You know, that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So I needed to start recognizing how important those expectations were. And what I came to realize is that my attitude, beliefs, and definitions, the intellectual paradigm, the intellectual framework that I'm relating to life out of is what determines my perspectives and my expectations, and that's what dictates my emotional reactions and my relationships. So if I'm having emotional reactions that are uncomfortable, if I'm having dysfunctional relationships, I need to look at what belief of mine, what attitude of mine is setting me up to feel like a victim here. Setting me up to feel like that this person is somebody they're not, or setting up to feel like I have, you know, whatever it is, you know. And I needed to, you know, so really, it was really important for me to own that I had a choice about my spiritual belief system. and I didn't have to keep being the victim of what I was taught in childhood,
Yeah.
and that I have the choice attitude. If things aren't going the way I want them to, if I'm getting frustrated, I need to change my attitude and my perspective. Not just let it keep getting worse, And my definitions, I need to change my definitions of almost everything, So what success is, what money means, all this stuff, because I learned that stuff in childhood.
Yeah.
And one of the big things I needed to learn to change my definition is what a romantic relationship is. And I had to start seeing that romantic relationships aren't a destination where I'm going to live happily ever after.
Yeah.
What romantic relationships are opportunities for growth. People come to my life to push my buttons so I can get in touch with those buttons and I can go from them.
Yeah.
And so it's really important for me to, that we could be alone and be pretty peaceful and serene and happy, and then get in a relationship, and all of a sudden all these old wounds come up.
Yeah.
Because this is where we heal. It's like, well, I guess you guys got that copy of my book where talk about the romantic relationships are the greatest arena for spiritual and emotional growth available to us.
Right.
And so, the only way to learn how to do a relationship is in one.
Yeah.
We can't. When we're not, we may need time in between relationships to do some healing, but we only question of our buttons we're in a relationship. So we want to learn how to change those reactions, so that we're not being the victim of the old wounds and the old tapes. And we all learned to that it was shameful and bad to be wrong. So often in relationships, it turns into a power struggle about who's right and that's not even the right question.
Yeah.
What we need to do is start looking at, why am I reacting this way? How old am I feeling? What in what's happening is causing, remind you of your childhood, and start tracking down the causes, because any problems in a relationship are the result of the two people's inner child wounds interacting.
Yeah.
And so what's so important is to stop seeing the other person as the problem or the solution, and start focusing on your relationship with yourself and owning your side street, and because, looking at what beliefs and attitudes of yours are causing you to act a certain way or be a certain way or have certain buttons, so that you can take responsibility for those and let the other person take responsibility for their side of the street, so that we're not pointing fingers at each other all the time, because that's what we're doing. Because what we were set up growing up is to give this other person the power to make us happy, which means we also end up blaming them when we're not happy.
Right.
And we want to stop focusing outside so much and start focusing inside. And you see the other person who's helping us to learn and grow, and and that's them pushing our best part of that process. And so it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And so to pick this up, we're to pick this with the behaviors when we talk next. But I'm going to send you these articles that are real good to read at this point, and to talk about the formations and detachment and the different stuff. And so the thing is, you only have the observer perspective. We start developing that observer perspective once we start realizing that there's something not working. We start seeking some answers.
Yeah.
And we're starting to look for spiritual answers, or we're starting to look for healing, and so we develop that. But the observer, the more we focus on it, the more powerful it gets. The more conscious we are of it, the more powerful it gets.
Right.
And so really want to focus on that observer perspective, because that becomes, like I said, the empowered adult part of this that we're developing, that we never had. We never got taught how to have an empowered adult part of this.
Right.
We may have got taught, we may have learned how to be strong and powerful out of that critical parent, but we didn't learn how to be like one of the things I say in one of my articles is, I never had a male role model that was powerful that didn't have something to do with anger and violence.
Yeah.
I didn't know how masculine energy could be loving and kind and nurturing, without being weak,
Right.
And so I had to really look at all that stuff. But developing the observer perspective, starting to do the positive affirmations. Like I said, we need to do a bunch to start changing that ego programming.
Yeah.
And do you do much, doing any writing, journaling, anything like that?
I make videos every day.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So that's probably your way of journaling, huh?
I'm really successful at it. Have you seen the double rainbow video?
No, I didn't. I haven't done that. I haven't looked at that yet. I still got it there.
Yeah, it's real popular. It's like 41 million people have seen it.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
Yeah, it's
So,
I've been all over the world because of it, and it's been copied and auto-tuned, and like it's been in every medium. It's been all over the world.
oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So that's part of. So, the reason I asked about the writing is because, like I mentioned, the way the ego gets us to avoid feelings is to get us in our head thinking.
Yeah.
And so thinking isn't a good way to get in touch with feelings a lot of times.
Yeah.
So, but writing helps us to do that. Now, whether I'm not sure if making the videos is helping you to get in touch with your own inner child wounds. It'd probably be good to do some writing also.
Yeah, I used to write, but I changed it to making the videos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because but if as long as you're doing the videos, you're looking at how it affects you and what feelings it's stirring up in you, and being able to, it's like I realized that I could cry at a movie for starving children in Bangladesh, but I didn't know how to cry for myself.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I started writing and then I progressed to the videos because it's more intimate and it's more honest because it's three-dimensional. And it's I have almost 50 million views on my channel, and with the copies and the auto-tunes and the interviews, it's hundreds of millions. Yeah, it's pretty powerful stuff. Yeah, I publish more than one video a day, and I'm really honest with like my life and what's going on in my head, and it's pretty helpful.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we want to get in touch with those different parts of us. We have all these different parts of us.
Yeah.
And we want to get in touch with them because we need to shine the light in the dark to take power away from them. We can't, by ignoring them, it doesn't take the power away from them. So we want to get in touch with these different parts of us and then really learn how to set these internal boundaries.
Yeah.
So we'll pick that up next time. When do you want to talk again?
I don't have to figure it out. Well, I'll get a hold of you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm actually going to Boston on Thursday, so I'm going to be going through this, so I don't have any more time this week, but next week sometime.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Okay, there.
Right.
Thank you.
I feel that was completely useless. That I didn't have any need for it. I think it was a big waste of time and a huge waste of money. I only did it for Laura. I think it probably was good for Laura. I feel very resentful that I spent all that money to have this guy tell me like all kinds of stuff that I already know. It makes me angry that I fell for this trick. That someone can give me counseling over the phone. I think maybe it was good for Laura, but like I'm angry and resentful that I had to pay all this money so that Laura could feel better, that I got counseling. So yeah, it's like it's not something I needed. It's not something I wanted. I did it for her, and I wish that I hadn't. I didn't learn anything.